First, before I begin, I love Paul Sankey, so these videos are fun. I'm having fun. Don't mistake it for anything else.
Extreme downward pressure. Is that an OPEC? Is that demand? How do you assess it?
Well, we're actually at a fascinating moment in global oil history here. We really are, because what you're seeing is the single biggest driver of the most important thing, which is demand, is China, and we think that peaked in 2023. So
Demand? Demand is gone? Yeah, you're right, Paul. I don't want to buy a new car or a new home or fly anywhere. Oil, don't want it anymore. And I talk to my Chinese friends. They say, they bought these condos in these big buildings. And we've all seen all these photos of these huge apartment blocks that they're no longer finishing. And they said to me, no, they can finish them. China can finish them if they wanted, but we'd rather live in the shacks in the countryside with no running water or electricity. We don't want to go live in those condos we bought. Anyway, come on. Lower demand from China is a symptom. What is it a symptom of, Paul? That's what I'd like to know.
at the same time, we're looking at the same for the US. So that was the original driver of the oil market, demand side. And then on the other side, on the supply side, what we're really looking for is the US to stop growing and start declining, and we've started that process. So that one's a 15-year cycle. That one's a 15-year cycle.
Yes, experts like you know that oil is declining in the US, but you called it a cycle?
That one's a 15-year cycle.
WTF? Cycle? This is a cycle, Paul. Yes, there are cycles in the stock market. There's cycles in money invested in all economic things that you look at. There are cycles. This is an oil well. It is not a cycle. You get a lot and then you get a little. That's how it goes. It goes up and it goes down, and that's it forevermore. Now you could say, all right, yeah, the well had a vertical thing, and then it had a fracking horizontal thing, and that's a cycle that went from vertical to horizontal. But what's next? In a cycle, it would go vertical wells, horizontal wells, vertical wells, horizontal wells. That is complete nonsense. To talk about oil supply as a cycle is completely against geologic reality, and you know this. It is not a cycle. Cycles are for, financial, economic markets, but oil wells do not work on cycles. They just do not. That, as Mr. Global would say, that just ain't a thing.
60.
Right.
And yet what they've done is a round of capex cuts and very defensive behavior already with strong balance sheets. So that's why the US decline is hard to second guess, because the companies are in such good shape and so well managed.
All right, call me crazy, but I don't think the capex of the U.S. oil companies and their balance sheets are clean because they want to take some moral high ground of like, oh, I have no debt, I'm such a good person. No, there's no oil. Why put the freaking money into it? It's as simple as that.
Somewhat, yeah. I mean, you've got two things. You've got the declining remaining productivity of the geology, so you're just running out of U.S. easy to find, easy to produce oil. But at the same time, the company's efficiencies, AI, all the other technology is getting much better. And so you're concentrating the sector into very strong, very big companies. All the kind of chaff that used to be highly levered, wildcatters type stuff, that's all, much more marginal now. And the U.S. is the biggest producer of oil and gas in the world.
AI is going to get more oil. There is no proof or evidence that it's going to do so whatsoever. And I'm going to push aside the whole question of what AI are you talking about? Like large language models? No, they have the computer algorithms to find oil. So that's all gone. AI is going to burn oil, way more oil than it ever finds. That's my prediction. Anyway, anyone who says, AI is going to make some big bulge in future production, I know what you're doing.
Much more marginal now, and the U.S. is the biggest producer of oil and gas in the world.
You think we're going into a 15-year cycle of lower production in the U.S.? Isn't the president trying to do the opposite?
Yeah, exactly. And the question is, are we going to now steadily decline? And I think there's a real risk we will. Exxon are not going to decline, but
Exxon isn't going to decline? Come on, Paul. Do you read Exxon's report in their 2025 or is it 2024? Whatever. Look at this graph. The dark green is the production going down with no new investments. The light green is with investments. If you look at it, it's like this year, production is going down this year. That's what Exxon is saying. How can you say that they're not going down?
The question is, can the rest of the industry sustain itself if oil's in the 50s? And the answer is no, you can't. We might see oil even below the 50s in the case of a full market share war with very weak demand. So it looks like it's peaked, and it probably peaked from a geological point of view for sure. So it's a really interesting dynamic. And if you look at Chinese demand peaking, that was 60-70% of all global oil demand growth over the past 15, 20 years. And if you look at US supply peaking, that was 50-60-70% of all global supply growth. So it's an enormous moment in transition here.
So I understand why he's not pushing back when she says there's a cycle of oil production. It's not a cycle. What is a cycle? What they're seeing is that oil goes through different types of exploration or different types of ability to get it. So you had the vertical wells, right? And then you found oil underwater. It's like that. So you had a thing with the vertical wells, and you had a thing with the offshore oil, and you have a thing with the fracking oil, right? So you have these various up and downs, but they're not cyclical. They make it look like cyclical if you look at oil production. But essentially, oil production is always as much as they can freaking find and sell from 1859 until now. And you look at the graph of oil production, it's like, it goes a little bit up and down, but it's all up. It's not like up and down like this. It's not cyclical in that way, like interest rates, cyclical. No, it's all up with variations that you could orient horizontally and call a cyclical thing, but it's not cyclical. It's basically up, and now it's coming down, and he knows that. And he's just letting the interviewer go into this nonsense that everybody in the world wants to believe. Like, we're never going to run out. It's just a temporary dip. It's a cycle. It's a dip, and it'll come back as it always does.